How do you even begin to explain something that's totally beyond words? I mean, think about it. Divine love, it's a huge challenge, right? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to tackle. And we've got one of the most famous spiritual texts ever written to guide us.
So we're starting with this incredible paradox from the 13th century poet Rumi. He basically says, look, talking about stuff usually makes it clearer, right? But with love, it's the total opposite. The more you try to pin it down with words, the more you kind of lose it. The real clarity is in the feeling, in the experience itself. So what's a poet supposed to do? How do you explain the unexplainable? Well, he tells a story.
And oh boy, is it a strange story. We're diving right into the very first tale of Rumi's masterpiece, the Masnavi. And trust me, it starts out looking pretty straightforward, but then it takes this turn that is just, wow. It's shocking and honestly pretty mysterious.
So picture this. It starts out like a classic fairy tale. You've got a prince out hunting, he sees this beautiful maiden, and bam, he's instantly captivated. He brings her back to his palace, everything seems perfect. But just as they're about to start their life together, she gets hit with this bizarre illness that just completely wastes her away. The prince naturally calls in all the best doctors, the absolute best in the kingdom. But nothing works. They're all stumped. So in total desperation, he just starts to pray. And what happens? A heavenly physician appears, and this guy, he gets it immediately. He sees that the problem isn't what it looks like on the surface. All that other medicine, it was just treating the symptoms, not the real cause.
And here it is, the big reveal. After some really clever questioning, the physician figures it out. The maiden isn't physically sick at all. She's lovesick. Turns out her heart already belongs to someone else, a goldsmith, way off in the city of Samarkand. Her body was literally just showing what was happening in her soul.
Okay, so if you thought the diagnosis was wild, wait till you hear the cure. It's baffling. The physician tells the prince, all right, here's what you're going to do. Go get the goldsmith, bring him here, and marry him to the maiden. Let them be happy. But then, and this is the crazy part, after 6 months, he slips the goldsmith a poison, not to kill him, but to make him wither away, become ugly and weak. And just as his beauty fades, so does her love for him. And just like that, she turns back to the prince.
So this leaves us with a massive question, right? What was that? Was that some kind of divine command? Or was it just a cold, calculated, and frankly, a cruel plot to get the prince what he wanted? Rumi actually tells us not to judge, that it's like God's command to Abraham. It's just beyond our human understanding. But still, you have to ask, why?
Well, to even begin to get it, we have to realize something crucial. We're not reading a simple, literal love story. Not at all. This is an allegory. Rumi is using every single character here to explain something much, much bigger. The very nature of love and the journey of the human soul. So, okay, let's start decoding this thing.
Okay, here's the key. The maiden, she's supposed to be the human soul. All of us. Her love for the goldsmith, that represents our attachment to all the earthly, temporary stuff. You know, beauty, money, status, all those worldly desires. It feels so real, but Rumi is saying that attachment is actually the sickness. The prince, then, is divine love, eternal, true love. So the cure, as brutal as it sounds, is really about the process of watching that earthly love fade away so that the soul can finally turn towards its real home, its true destination.
Rumi just nails it with this line. He's suggesting that basically every love we feel in this life, whether it's for another person, a passion, a project, whatever, it's just a stepping stone. It's kind of like a shadow of a much bigger, much more real love. And the idea is that in the end, every single soul gets pulled toward that ultimate source, what he calls the king of love.
So here's the bottom line. This whole experience is it's way beyond our normal ways of thinking. Rumi has these amazing images for it. He says when you try to write about real love, the pen just snaps in two. Your logical brain, it gets stuck like an ass in the mud. He's saying the only way to get it is to feel it, to experience it. Words and reason, they'll only get you part of the way there.
But, that brings up a really good question. If words are so limited for this stuff, then why bother telling such a complicated, veiled story in the first place? Why not just come out and say what you mean? And believe it or not, this was a real point of contention between Rumi and his own spiritual teacher.
So on one side, you have Rumi's teacher, the legendary Shams of Tabriz. And this guy does not mince words. He's direct, he's demanding. He's basically saying, come on, Rumi, stop hiding behind all these stories and metaphors. Just speak the truth, plain and simple. Don't mess around with all these veils and secrets.
But Rumi, He pushes back, and he uses this absolutely brilliant metaphor. He says divine truth is like the sun. Yeah, it gives us light, it gives us life, but if you were to get any closer to it, its raw power would just vaporize you. He's arguing that some truths are just too powerful, too intense, to be stared at directly.
And right there, that's the core dilemma for pretty much any spiritual teacher, isn't it? Do you hit people with the direct, unfiltered truth and risk totally overwhelming them? Or do you wrap it up in a story, a poem, something that lets them get close to it safely and figure it out on their own terms, in their own time?
Well, Rumi obviously chose the second path, and now in our final section, we're going to see exactly why he believed that veiling the truth in a story wasn't about being tricky or deceptive. For him, it was actually an act of deep compassion.
He keeps going with that sun metaphor, and it just gets better. Think about it. The only thing that can really show you the sun is the sun itself. You can't really describe sunlight to someone who's lived in a cave their whole life. But you also can't just tell them, hey, go stare right at it. They'd go blind. So, what's the solution?
You show them the shadows, a story, a poem. This allegory we've been talking about, it's like a shadow cast by something real. It isn't the thing itself, obviously.
But that shadow is proof. It proves the object is there, and more importantly, it proves the sun is shining. The shadow gives you the outline, the evidence that the truth is real, all without making you stare into that blinding light. And that, right there, is the whole point. The story about the prince and the goldsmith, it's not some riddle designed to trick us. It's more like a vessel, a container, built to hold a truth so powerful it has to be handled with care. The story is the pair of sunglasses that lets our eyes adjust to the brightness. So we kind of circle back to where we started with a question. For Rumi, stories were these incredible gateways to understanding the divine. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If that's true, what amazing truths are hiding just under the surface of the stories that are all around us, the ones we hear and the ones we tell every single day?